Do you know how your bank takes advantage of your ignorance? And how can you save yourself from losing your hard-earned money to your bank just by being little more aware and informed about the various policies of your bank? This video will be an eye-opener for all those who have availed or intend to avail any kind of loan from any bank. Let's understand the seriousness of this with the help of an example. Let's say there is a person and we call him Mr. Borrower who approaches his bank and takes a home loan of say rupees 15 lakhs, which he is supposed to pay through equated monthly installments EMIs in next 20 years. Simple. Now the twist. After having paid all the EMIs without any default, he approaches his bank on completion of the tenure of 20 years to collect the NOC and his property documents, but instead gets the shock of his life when the banker tells him that his outstanding principal, which should ideally have become zero by now, has actually increased from the original rupees 15 lakhs to now rupees 20 lakhs. As the EMIs he had paid all these years were not sufficient to cover even the interest component. I think such a shock is enough for any ordinary person to get a cardiac arrest. Unfortunately, this seemingly hypothetical story of Mr. Borrower is indeed a true story. And what is more, not just of any single individual, but of a large number of such unsuspecting borrowers who have suffered a varying degree of financial losses, if not as high as Mr. Borrower. Why? Simply because of the sheer lack of awareness of the prevailing lending rate policies of the banks. So the larger question is, what went wrong with this loan? And what is it that Mr. Borrower could have done or should have done to avoid landing up in such a situation? And more importantly, what role the regulator, that is RBI, should have played or is playing or has played so far to avoid the recurrence of such incidents wherein the banks literally rip the customers off and simply get away with it. And most importantly, how to check whether you are also being victimized, and if yes, what corrective action you should take. So these are some of the questions we shall try to find the answers of in this video. Though this is slightly technical, but I will try and simplify it to the extent possible so that you may have a complete understanding as to how the lending rates are determined by banks and what are the loopholes therein and how to avoid getting trapped into the same. In good old days, that is before liberalization, RBI and not banks, RBI used to decide what interest rates would be charged by banks from their customers for different categories of loan. And that was an era of completely controlled and administered lending rate system. And the first attempt of decontrolling of interest rates came in the form of BPLR, or the Benchmark Prime Lending Rate, which was introduced by the Reserve Bank of India in the year 2003 with the aim of introducing transparency and ensuring appropriate pricing of loans, wherein the banks would have greater liberty and the lending rates would truly reflect the actual cost. Now let us try and understand what exactly was this BPLR system and what was the loophole in the BPLR system and how the banks took undue advantage of the same. BPLR, or Benchmark Prime Lending Rate, was supposed to be the benchmark rate, or in simple words, it was supposed to be the best or lowest rate meant for the bank's prime customers or the best customers, that is the customers with good creditworthiness, meaning the customers whose chances of defaulting on repayment of loans was negligible, whereas the customers with higher risk profile were to be charged rates above BPLR. Now let's say a bank, after doing its internal cost calculations, declares its BPLR as 10% for a given year. And let us say some customers, depending upon the risk profile, are charged BPLR plus 2% or BPLR plus 4%. Then the effective interest rates for those customers would be 12% and 14% respectively. And this additional 2% and 4% is called spread, which is actually the premium charged by the bank for extra risk attached to that given customer. However, in many cases, banks even charge rates less than BPLR. For example, 2% less than BPLR of 10% would translate into an effective rate of just 8%. Now, this is called sub-BPLR lending. In fact, there was a time when the share of sub-BPLR lending rose to as high as 70 to 90% of total lending. And that has been the main reason why BPLR system failed miserably and fell short of its original objective of bringing transparency to lending rates. Now you might be wondering, what is wrong with that if a bank is lending below BPLR? This should be considered a good thing rather. In fact, even RBI also could not anticipate this loophole in BPLR system. And that's why they also never thought of putting any restriction on sub-BPLR lending. So what exactly was the issue? The issue was that while on the one hand, banks kept on increasing their BPLRs on regular intervals, thereby burdening all the existing borrowers with higher and higher interest rates. On the other hand, banks were able to attract new customers by offering them competitive rates, simply because they had the option of sub-BPLR lending. To further simplify it, let us understand it with the help of an example. Let us say a bank has a BPLR of 10% in year 2003. And if it gives a loan to a customer at BPLR plus 1%, then that customer's effective interest rate would be 11% in the year when he has taken the loan, that is 2003. But if the bank keeps on increasing its BPLR, say by 1% every year, then by 2008, the bank's BPLR would become 15%. And this particular customer would be paying an interest at the rate of 15 plus 1, that is 16%. And if this customer is not keeping track of his interest rate and trusting his bank blindly, which is what most of the customers do, he would be still under the impression that the interest rate on his loan continues to be 11%. But actually, it has reached 16%. Now, on the other hand, the bank will not charge 16% from the new customers, because at that rate, not many customers would be interested in taking that loan, obviously. So, despite having a BPLR of 15% in year 2008, the bank would still be able to attract new customers by offering them attractive interest rate of say BPLR minus 4%, that is 11%. Simply because banks had the option of sub-BPLR lending. So do you see the anomaly? Two customers in the same year availing same kind of loans are paying interest rates as different as 16% and 11%. Now secondly, thanks again to the window of sub-BPLR lending, there were instances when banks charged as low as 4% to big corporations. Many public sector banks did this because of lobbying from corporations. This sub-BPLR lending on a large scale had created a perception that large borrowers were being cross-subsidized by retail and small borrowers. Thirdly, banks and housing finance corporations were also accused of promptly increasing the BPLR as and when the RBI increased the key policy rates, that is repo rate, which is the reference rate at which RBI lends to banks. On the contrary, when RBI decreased these policy rates, then these institutions didn't show the same promptness to decrease the BPLR. So there was a lack of transparency in computing the BPLR. So in order to deal with this problem, RBI introduced a new system called base rate system, which was implemented with effect from 1st July 2010 with an objective to enhance transparency in lending rates of banks and better transmission of monetary policy. Transmission of monetary policy means the extent to which banks pass on the benefit of decrease in repo rate to the end consumers by reducing their interest rates. Unlike BPLR, which was a complete disaster, the base rate system turned out to be a far better system and was quite successful in achieving the desired objectives. However, it wasn't the perfect system yet. So the question is, what was so great about it and what was still missing? And the answer is as follows. The reason why base rate system could achieve the objective of enhancing the transparency in lending rates was because of its key feature, which was that the banks were not allowed to lend below base rate, except certain specific categories like staff loans or loans under some specific schemes of government, etc. And the logic is quite simple. Since the banks are not allowed to lend below base rate, they were forced to keep their base rates low and competitive to attract new borrowers, the benefit of which was getting extended to the existing borrowers as well. So therefore, the base rate system had largely addressed the issue of anomalies in the interest rates being charged to existing borrowers and the new borrowers. However, the second issue of transmission of policy rate changes was not completely addressed even under base rate system. And that was primarily because of the fact that banks were allowed to decide their base rates after calculating their cost of funds either on the basis of average cost or on marginal cost or any other methodology. Since most banks conveniently considered average cost of funds in calculating their base rate, it gave them the excuse of not passing on the benefit of any reduction in repo rate by RBI to the borrowers, citing the reason that the impact of this change in repo rate is quite negligible in overall average cost of funds. So in order to deal with the issues being faced in base rate system and to further improve the transmission of monetary policy, the Reserve Bank of India has brought a new methodology of setting lending rates by commercial banks under the name Marginal Cost of Funds Based Lending Rate, MCLR, with effect from April 2016. While calculating the lending rate under MCLR system, banks were now required to consider the marginal or incremental or latest cost of last 1 month only, and not the average cost as they were doing during base rate regime. Though MCLR was better than base rate in terms of transmission, but still the transmission was not complete. For instance, in the calendar year 2019, RBI decreased its repo rate from 6.50 to 5.15. That is a reduction of 135 basis points. But SBI has reduced their 1-year MCLR by only 65 basis points and their 6-monthly MCLR by only 55 basis points. Why? Despite all these efforts of RBI in experimenting with various systems, why the transmission was still so poor? And the answer lies in the fact that all the three benchmark rates, namely BPLR, base rate and MCLR, are being decided by the banks internally. And there has always been a lack of transparency in computation of these benchmark rates by various banks. In order to deal with this problem, RBI came up with a new system and mandated that with effect from 1st October 2019, all new floating rate personal or retail loans shall be linked to any one out of the 4 external benchmark rates. The rates which are determined externally and not by banks internally. And majority of the banks have chosen RBI's policy repo rate as their external benchmark rate. So now once the bank has decided your effective lending interest rate by adding some spread above repo rate, then the effective interest rate on your loan thereafter will be driven by the movement in the RBI's repo rate and will not be decided by the banks internally. So now we know how the rates have become more and more competitive with the gradual migration from BPLR to base rate to MCLR to external benchmarks. So the customers having their loans linked to BPLR would be the biggest losers. while those having their loans linked to external benchmark rate like repo rate would be paying the best and most competitive rates. Now one may ask that if the RBI is already looking after the borrower's interest and is making the necessary rectifications in lending rate structure, then what is there for the borrowers to be careful about and to act upon? To which the answer is, although the banks are mandated by RBI to ensure that all the fresh loans must be linked to the latest benchmark rate, and the new borrowers have to only ensure that their loan is linked to the latest benchmark rate, which currently is external benchmark rate, primarily RBI's policy repo rate. But the main issue is with the existing borrowers. For instance, people who had availed any loan prior to 2010 linked to BPLR and have still not switched to base rate or MCLR or repo rate simply because of their sheer ignorance of the changes which have happened in the last decade are the worst victims and must be paying highly exorbitant interest rates on their loans. Now one may ask, why can't RBI instruct all the banks to link all the existing loans of their customers with external benchmark rate? And the answer to that is, a loan is a bilateral agreement between a bank and the borrower, and any of its terms and conditions cannot be changed unilaterally by bank alone without the written consent of the borrower, even if the changed terms and conditions are going to benefit the borrower. So you will have to go and formally request your bank to switch your existing loan from an old regime to a new regime. That is, get your lending rate linked to external benchmark rate. And mind you, your banker might be interested in keeping you in the old regime because your switching to new regime would result in their loss. It's obvious, your gain would be their loss. But you need to insist and get your loan switched to a new regime. And your bank is legally bound to do that. Now one clarification here. Unlike all the internal benchmark systems where your interest rates would generally remain same for a considerably longer period of time, around 1 year or so, your interest rate should be fluctuating more frequently when linked to repo rate, as in when it is changed by RBI. But it would still be better and worth it to get your loan linked to external benchmark rate. Wishing you all a very happy and smart banking. Thank you and Jai Hind.